There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a brief overview of the department, some of the people you will need to know about, interact with potentially, but call it a sort of a who's who. But most of the time we'll be on the requirements for the master's and PhD programs, deadlines, how you kind of make it through the program and how you get out. I know you just gotten here and all that, but that's kind of what we're going to talk about so that you can help yourselves as we go forward. Talk a little bit about assistantship expectations. Many of you are either TAs or RAs, and then I'll give you some online resource references too. Let's see. All right, so in order to be able to take attendance, so I know who was here, if you can put your name in the chat window, I can see we got 21 signed in and there should have been 38. So I need to know who's here. Just drop your name in the chat and I'll have a recorded record of who was here. Excellent. All right, so we got 3 degrees, if you will, 3 majors: electrical, computer engineering, as well as computer science, and each of them have BS, MS, and PhD. In addition to that, there's a CS minor that double E's can get, not computer engineers, because it's too closely related to CS. There's also some certificates, and I may not have all of them listed down here, but one of the big ones is this AI ML graduate certificate. Another popular one is fire protection, and then power and energy systems. The one at the bottom, with the big long name, intercollegiate graduate minor in computational science. That's sort of a 3-legged chair where you have some credit hours from computer science, some from what's called a domain science. It could be biology or physics or what have you, and then some from math. So that's people who do sort of interdisciplinary work. So all this stuff is documented in the catalog, but we'll focus on the blue ones here. In fact, we'll focus on the top 3, and of those, it'll be MS and PhD. Just a brief rundown of the numbers in here. We have about 50 faculty, 1,000 undergraduates, and then 160 or so grad students divided up, as you can see in this little table. At the very bottom, you can see where your cohort, the students that you're starting out with here now. So we've got about 40 masters and 20 PhD students divided across the 3 majors, as you see there. In the business office, in room 401, Angie is the person, I think there's another one too, but she's the one that usually sits at the front desk. And so you will talk with her, you will see her when you come in for various things. Jane Fielden is the graduate student secretary. She sits down the hallway a little bit, the second one down there. She is the one that will help you with, if you need to register with a course, if you need to change your information in what's called Banner, the system that maintains all the records and everything. Lori Hauser is a little further down, and she deals with all the HR issues. So she's payroll, she's important, and visas and things like that. So those of you who are on payroll as TAs or RAs most likely have worked with her already. Then there's some others. Erica Adams, she runs the business side of the office. There's a chief of staff who's above her too, but she's the business manager. Tracy and Melanie deal with travel when the time comes, and you got to file for some of that. And Amanda's downstairs in 101, I think, dealing with purchasing. So IT staff is another one. As you come into the building, Mingao building on the 4th floor to your left, we have lab staff or IT staff in room 423, and they will help you get your computers running or equipment in labs and things like that. There are 5 people who do this as a full-time job, and then there's some graduate assistants and undergraduate assistants in there as well in the room. But they can help you, and if they're not actually going to do the work for you, they can point you in the right direction. We all do much of our IT updates and stuff ourselves anymore, so but they can help you if you have issues. I probably need to No, I don't. Okay, I'll just make a note here of 19. If you have questions, you can put it in the chat and I'll try to look at it. If I kind of miss it, then just speak up. I can't obviously see the 25 people now here all at the same time, so then just speak up. All right. If we had done this in person, I would have been looking out the room and taking, questions as we go along, but I can't do that. So here's the most important person. It's not you, it's not me, it's your major professor. So everybody, all of you have to have an academic advisor. That's your mentor, especially if you're here to do research, whether it's a master's thesis or PhD dissertation. That would be the person who will guide you through that. You don't come up with a topic of your own. You do it working with this faculty member. And then we'll keep track of how you're doing, and these also the ones that you will go to for questions about the degree program. Ultimately, and I'll show you this in a little bit, you have to file what's called an admission to candidacy form. That's the one that gets you out. It's sort of a contract, if you will, with the university that says if you take these courses and get passing grades, you will get a degree. You have to have a committee chair to sign off on that, and that will be your academic advisor. So some of you will have one. If you are research assistants, you do. That's the one that hired you. I will be listed in the system as your default advisor. But if you are an RA, go to the person that you work for. If you are not an RA, or if you have not already teamed up with somebody, then you should look for somebody. And how do you do that? Well, it could be someone you take a course from. It could be someone that works in an area that you're interested in. And you just have to approach them and say, hey, I'm so-and-so, I just started here. This is what I'm interested in. It overlaps with your interests. I'm here for master's degree. I'm here for a PhD. I'm looking for an advisor. Jane Fielden needs to be told when you change to that person, so that I can be removed from the system and we can get the right person in there, so she can point everybody to the right person. Okay. So your major professor, your advisor, your mentor is critical. You'll see that person be referenced many times as we go through this little presentation here. So hopefully that will drive home the fact that it's important you know who that is and that you have one. So again, in person, I probably would have done by show of hands, how many are here for a master's degree, but we have the numbers earlier, so you can all go back and look at that, right? It was most of you who are master's students. So what does it take for you to get out? Well, you have to generate a minimum of 30 credit hours, and then you have 3 options. See if I can do a little laser pointer here. So 3 options. Here's option 1. You can do a master's thesis. If you do that, you have to take something called 500 hours, and it's typically over 2 semesters, 3 hours in one and 3 hours in the next. So the first semester you do the research, the second semester you kind of write the thesis and you defend it, and there are deadlines specified by the grad school that are kind of in the middle of the semester almost for when you have to defend, not quite, maybe 2/3 into it. So that second semester is not as long as you think. That's why typically it takes 2. So if you get, your 6 hours from that, you're down to 24 course credits. The second option is a project option. Some faculty will refer to as pilots, and that's project in lieu of thesis. And it is kind of like a thesis without the thesis. You do the research, but you don't have to go through the rigor of writing the document. You may be asked to give a presentation. You may be asked to write a report, but it doesn't have to be approved by the graduate school. So you sign up for 501 for that, 3 hours, and then you got to do 27 course credits. So that was option 2. And option 3 is course only. And historically, that's what most master's students will do. You basically take 30 course credits, that's 10 courses. There's no final comprehensive exam or anything. When you've done those 10 courses, you're done. But you must have an advisor sign off on this form called admission to candidacy in order to get out. So even though you do course credit, course only, and you don't have a thesis, you don't have a project, you don't need someone to oversee it, somebody needs to sign off as your academic advisor. Any questions on this? Okay. So of those 30 credits that you have to have, there's a limit on how many 400 level credits you can take. And in the catalog, it says a third. So a third of 30 will be 10. Well, that would translate into 3 courses because that would be 9 hours. The rest will have to be either 500 or 600 level. And that includes the 500 and 501 for thesis and project. If you do a thesis, it has to be run through something called Authenticate. And that's a plagiarism checking mechanism. So you didn't, copy all the text from someone else's thesis or papers or what have you. If you do a thesis or a project, you have to have a committee of 3 people. So it's your advisor, who has to be from our department, plus 2 tenure track faculty. If you do a minor, one of them has to be from that department. Typically, people don't do that, but those are the rules. If you do course only, you just have an EECS advisor. You don't have a final exam, like I said before, and you don't have a committee, just that one person. What will come up eventually is someone's going to ask about those 400 level credit hours, if they can take this course, that course, or some other course. And why can I not take any of them out there? Well, the 400 level courses you can take and have count toward a graduate degree have to be listed in the graduate catalog. Not all of them are. So before you rush into signing up for a 400 level course, thinking you're going to get your 3 hours knocked out for your master's or your PhD later, make sure it's in the graduate catalog. Otherwise, you're in for a nasty surprise when you file the admission to candidacy. So that's pretty critical. And you have to sign up for graduate credit, obviously. All right. So when the time comes and you want to file for admission to candidacy, it's a form that lists all the credits you want to have counted. So it's all your courses, your thesis project hours, and you download it from the website that you can see here, Graduate School, Form Central. You will become familiar with the Graduate School webpage before you're done. And you'll see the form in just a minute here. And it's signed first by you, then by your advisor, then by committee if you have one, and then by me, and I submit it to the graduate school. So it has to come from the Director of Graduate Studies, and that's because I have to check everything and make sure you meet all the requirements, and then they check it again over there. You have to file this form the semester before the one you intend to graduate. Not the week before, not the month before, the semester before. So if you're going to graduate in spring, you file it in the fall. If you're going to graduate in the fall, you file it either in the spring or over the summer. There are some other deadlines you have to meet, and you have to go to the grad school webpage to find those. Here's what it looks like. You put your name in, your student ID, your email, which are the majors you have. Should say master's here. If you put in a concentration, it has to be, again, in the graduate catalog. You can't just make one up. You can't just think, well, these are the courses I took, so this is kind of what I want to call it. There's a list of maybe 10 that you can choose from. And then you list your courses in chronological order, oldest down to newest, and you got to sign it. So you have to sign it electronically using Adobe Acrobat. You can't use the feature in Adobe Acrobat to create one and route for them. You have to use the method that's described on the graduate school webpage. You can't use DocuSign or anything like that. You can't do it using a web browser, PDF viewer. It has to be Adobe Acrobat. If you do anything other than the way it says to do it, you're locking the document down and the rest of us can't sign it, and it gets sent back to you. All right. So be very careful with that. Look at when you grab it from the grad school webpage, look at the instructions for how to sign it. We're up to 28 now. If you joined us a little late, put your name in the chat, please, so I can check you off and make sure that I know that you are here. Thank you. If you have if you're doing a thesis or a project, as you can see down here, then you have your chairperson and you have your committee down here, and then I sign off at the bottom. If you're course only, it will have the chairperson and then just me. So it's a different form. Don't get the two mixed up. Here's a timeline. And the academic advice that we talked about is probably the most important thing for you to think about at this point. It may take this semester, it may take the next semester before you home in on a person, but you don't want to put it off for too long. So you got to find somebody to work with. They can guide you through what courses to take and so forth. And if you want to do a thesis or a project, get you started on that. If you're a CS student, you have to start taking your core courses. We'll talk about them here in a little bit. If you are EE, there are no requirements like that. If you're CP, there's also a list, but it's more, I don't know, it's easier, it's more open. And you have to look in the catalog for those. If you do thesis project, then you form a committee. This does not apply to course only. And then semester before you're ready to graduate, file a mission to candidacy. If you do thesis project, defend that. If you course only, you don't. So it's very easy, right? Very straightforward, linear progression here. Many of you who are in the MS program have done the 5-year BSMS, and so you will start, you will hit the ground running, basically. You'll start with maybe 6 to 9 credit hours already under your belt, and you will be able to get out in a year. So for you, it's even more critical that you identify this academic advisor, but you have the advantage of knowing the faculty. You've taken classes here at UT, and so you can approach people and say, hey, remember me from whatever. I'd like to work with you on my master's thesis or project or course only. Okay. PhD. It looks a little more complicated because it is a little more complicated. Some of you will start the PhD program from a bachelor's degree. Some will start it from a master's. If you start it from a bachelor's degree up here, it takes you 72 credit hours. 39 of those have to be course credits. 24 have to be dissertation, which are called 600. The remaining 9 can be either. So you work that out with your advisor, whether they are research hours or course credits. Typically they end up over here, but they can be in either. And you can do more than 72. If you start with a master's degree, you have to get a minimum of 48. If you come from UT, if you have a UT master's degree, 15 course credits to make it up to the 39, plus 24, plus the 9. So you fall in that same categories up here. If you don't have a UT master's degree, it's 24 of each. Easy peasy. You cannot transfer in course credits from outside to make any of this up. So you can list them on the admission to candidacy when the time comes, but you still have to do a minimum of 24 course credits at UT and 24 dissertation credits. Dissertation credits from elsewhere, again, don't transfer. Course specifics or requirements vary by the major. CS has core courses, ECE do not. So you got to talk to the advisor and or see the graduate catalog. Here's a big one. When you start taking the 600 credit, your dissertation research in here, you cannot stop. This is like the perpetual roller coaster then. It goes round and round and round until you're done. You have to do it every semester, including summer. So do not sign up for 600 until you're ready, until your advisor says you're ready. It happens sometimes that people start doing that and then you're kind of caught in it. I don't know why the rules are like this, but once you start on 600, continuous enrollment is enforced. If you don't do it, when you file admission to candidacy, they make you go back and retroactively sign up for it and pay for it. The one in blue at the bottom, all PhD students need an academic advisor. That should not be a surprise because you're going to do dissertation, you need a mentor and so forth. And you need to find that person sooner rather than later. Any questions here? Requirements. So if you come with an undergraduate degree, then you can take more 400 level courses than if you start with a master's. And you can see the numbers there. And again, they have to be in the graduate catalog. In addition to the 600 dissertation credit hours, you also need a minimum of 6 hours of 600 level coursework. That's what I call 6XX here. And so here's a fun one. It's called residence. The university, the graduate school, wants all PhD students to have either 3 semesters where they do 6 hours in each, and they have to be consecutive. So if you do like spring and fall, summer has to have 6 hours too. You can't drop summer out. So if you want to do 3 semesters, there will be a somewhere in there. Keep that in mind. 6 hours in each of the 3, or you have 2 back-to-back semesters that could be maybe fall and spring, where you took 9 credit hours. This doesn't sound like a lot, and it really isn't, but trust me, it happens every year that someone will come in and they'll have a gap. They did maybe 636, and now they retroactively will have to go back and ask for late registration to make up the remaining hours. So just keep that in mind, and it's not a problem. You will be taking what's called a comprehensive exam on the admission to candidacy form. In the department, we typically refer to it as a research proposal. So once you kind of get through most of your course work and you start working on your dissertation research, then when you're together with your advisor, you kind of agree that you would like to bring a committee together and propose to this committee what your research should be. That's when you do this research proposal presentation, defense, call it what you want. And then you can check the box for this comprehensive exam. And then you're typically ABD, all but dissertation. Again, when you start taking 600, it's continuous enrollment. You have to continue. So you typically do that a little before you are ready for your research proposal. Obviously, you have to do 600 so you can do the work for the research proposal. Like the thesis, you have to run your dissertation and all your papers that you write through Authenticate. You need a committee. All PhD students must have a committee. It's your EECS advisor, a minimum of 2 faculty, typically from our department, plus 1 from outside the department. The one from outside the department could be from a different department at UT. What I mentioned before, I forget, biology, physics, from the sciences, math, sociology, anything that's relevant to the work you do. It could be someone from the Bredesen Center, a joint faculty member from Oak Ridge, or even someone from industry. But it has to be someone who has standing in the field and, the credentials. They too must have a PhD and, publish papers and stuff like that. Okay. This might be a lot to take in. The PDF, there's a PDF available on the departmental website. I can't remember where it is, on the graduate program somewhere, that has all this in it. And it's in the graduate catalog, but this is an easier to read summary of it. If you are an ECE PhD student, you have to take a so-called qualified. It is not the comprehensive exam. Students tend to get that confused. The qualifier is a critical literature review that you're supposed to do in year 1. If you failed it, then you can repeat it once in year 2. Your advisor is not on the committee. The committee you form for this is not necessarily your dissertation committee, but you have a committee of 3 people that will then sit and listen to your, give a presentation on this literature review. The students I know of who failed it, what they ended up doing was they ended up giving essentially their research proposal, and that's not what this is. This is a literature review, which is critical to any kind of doctoral student. CS students, master's and PhD, have to take core courses, and there are 3 categories: hardware, which is CS 530, software systems, which is 540, that's software engineering. 561 is compilers, and 562 operating systems. Maybe I got those 2 mixed up, but you can look it up. So you take one of these, right? That's an OR. So one of these plus either 580 or 581. This is formal language theory, and this is an algorithms analysis course. If you're a master's student, you must pass the core courses. That's C or better. If you're a PhD student, you have to get a B or better. So if you took, say, 540 here and you didn't get a B, then you can take 561 or 562. You can't really easily go back and retake courses. In fact, I'll show you here in a minute when you can. But that gives you a little sort of way out. If you are a direct PhD student, that means if you started with a bachelor's degree, you will accumulate 39 or more course credits. When you get close to 30, you can file for what's called a concurrent master's. It's a master's degree. It will look, smell, taste the same as a regular master's degree. The reason it's called concurrent is you get it while you're a PhD student. You have to be enrolled in a degree program in which you get the degree. In the old days, you would have to apply for master's, get changed into that, and then reapply back to PhD, and it was just a big paperwork mess. Now you can file a form, check a box, and says, hey, I'd like to get a concurrent master's, and you can do any of the three options because it is a regular master's degree. Only the course credits count toward your PhD. So if you do a master's thesis, now you added 6 hours to your workload project, you added 3. All right. Don't do this on your own. Do it in consultation with your advisor. Any questions? All right, here's the form for requesting a concurrent master's. It's very simple. Your name, your ID, contact information, major, concentration. Check some boxes here. And then I sign it here and I sign it there. And that allows you to do it. And now you basically are doing a master's in parallel with your PhD. Paid internships. If you're a domestic student, you can do it anytime, anywhere with anybody. We don't control that. You have to remain enrolled for courses, be a full-time student, an active student, but you can work in the summers and so forth. If you're an international student, you must get approval from the Center for Global Education, I think it is, CGE. And there are 2 ways you can do it. One is called curricular practical training, and now you have to sign up for 1 hour of either CS or ECE 592, and you got to file some paperwork to be allowed to go do this. And the other is optional practical training. You don't get course credit for it. That's typically done after you graduate or when you're just about to graduate. And you can see the off-campus study course catalog entry down here. You can get 1 credit hour at a time, and you can repeat it, but only up to 3 of them can count toward your degree. Yeah. Now, look at the blue statement at the bottom. If you have started accumulating 600 credit hours, which are required continuous enrollment, and you go away on an internship in the summer, if you're paid elsewhere, you cannot be paid by UT. If you're not paid by UT, your assistantship cannot pay for your fees. Now it becomes very expensive to have to take those 600 credits. If your internship is not related or relevant to your dissertation, like it doesn't generate data for it, you're not going to write papers that are going to go away in it, you can apply for an exemption from the continuous enrollment. You have to do it in consultation with your advisor. You do it before you go on the internship. It will not be approved retroactively, but you can get approval for not signing up for it if you're doing an internship that broadens your educational horizon, but is not contributing to your dissertation. If you're an international student, make sure when you file for either CPT or OPT that what you file there plays nicely with the exemption request in there, because if they don't, then you're in violation of federal rules and regulations, and that is a big mess and a big no-no. All right, so tell everybody the same thing. Here is the continuous enrollment exemption form. I'm just pointing out here to make it absolutely clear that the internship cannot produce content for your dissertation, be that data or papers, research, if you will. When you are ready, when PhD students are ready and have done their research proposal, you file your admission and candidacy. That's the same or similar form to what you saw before. It lists all your course credits, your dissertation credits, and so forth. You grab it from the Form Central, you sign it, your advisor signs it, your committee sign it, I sign it, grad school signs off on it, and you can think of it as a contract. Like if you do what it says on there, you will get your PhD. Typically, this is filed as soon as you have defended your research proposal. And the time between research proposal and defense is a minimum of 6 months, not a semester, 6 months. So that gives you a little time, and in those 6 months is where you do the things that you've kind of hinted at or alluded to at your research proposal that you would do, that your committee agreed would make for a good dissertation. And here's the form, name, major, degree, concentration. You sign it here. I see the signature has to be, there's Adobe type signature. Here's the residence requirement, either 2 terms with 9 credit hours each, or 3 semesters with 6 hours each. The comprehensive exam is the research proposal, not the qualifier, the research proposal. 6 months later is the earliest you can defend your dissertation then. Here you list all your course credits and dissertation credit hours. If you came in with a master's degree, you list all the course credits here, not thesis, but all your course credits. If you're getting a minor, you put that in here too. And eventually the committee. And I cannot say this enough, sign it. Everybody must sign it with the Adobe Acrobat. You might remember to do it, your advisor may not. If they don't, or if someone from outside doesn't do that, it will be rejected. And you have to go back and you know, have them change it. So just remind everybody when you submit it, please use the Adobe Acrobat signature that looks like yours that you put up at the top. Here's the PhD timeline. You got to get an advisor. That's very critical because they're going to guide you through your research and everything. You take courses. If you're a CS student, you take core courses. If you're ECE students, you take the qualifier. And then at some point when you've done most of your coursework, then you get started on your research. That's the 600. When you start on that, you cannot stop. You form a committee in consultation with your advisor. You take this comprehensive exam, do the research proposal, file admission to candidacy, and then do the research that you had said you were going to do, and then you defend that to your committee. All right, so back to sort of more generic things. Everybody must maintain a minimum of 3.0 for their GPA. That's your cumulative GPA. If you don't, if you ever have a cumulative GPA fall below 3.0, you will be put on what's called academic probation. Once that happens, you have to have a term GPA of 3.0 until your cumulative GPA is brought up above 3.0. If your term GPA ever drops below 3.0 while on probation, you will be terminated by the graduate school. So how does it get below 3.0? Well, you get grades below a B. Like B minus is going to knock you down. C will knock you down. D and F seriously will knock you down. Now, the good thing about D and F, if there is such a thing, is that if you fail a course, which those degrees indicate, then you can repeat up to 2 courses once each. So max 1 repeat per course, max 2 total. You have to file a petition with a graduate school. You sign it, your advisor signs it. I don't sign it. So it's something between you and your advisor. Now, your failed grade, your D or your F, remains on your transcript. It doesn't go away, but at least you have a chance of redeeming yourself and pulling things up. Now, it's going to hurt your GPA, right? So you don't really want to go there, but if it happens in a core course, that is one way out if you really do poorly. If your GPA drops below the 3.0 as well, or if you start getting D's and F's in here, your assistantship may be in jeopardy. You have to be making good progress toward your degree, and that's not good progress. So it's not guaranteed they'll be revoked, but they may. So keep that in mind. In other words, if you are in a course and you're in over your head, you might be better off getting out. Take a W rather than getting the D or the F, even though D or F allows you to retake it because it hurts your GPA. Any questions on this? In the graduate school, there's a couple of people that are very important to you. Jennifer and Julie will be the ones you will communicate with, depending on your last name. So A through K and L through Z. And they are the ones that all the documents are sent to, and they will process them. The thesis or dissertation consultant will look over your thesis or your dissertation and approve it for formatting, not content. They don't read it per se, but there are formatting requirements that have to be met, and they'll check that. So it's a lot to take in. Chances are you will not remember all this today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next semester when you need it. So you need to become familiar with these resources. So on the departmental webpage, there is a graduate link. And under that, there is a handbook link. And that handbook will tell you a lot of the things we talked about here. The catalog, the graduate catalog, will talk about academic policies. It will have descriptions of courses and things like that. The graduate school webpage will have information on procedures. That's where you got forms. And then there's a book called Hill Topics, and that's a student handbook that has everything else that you could possibly want to know. So make sure that you know where to find all this information. And before you ask anybody, see if you can find it in there. Even if you do go ahead and ask someone, it's always good to kind of have preconceived idea of what an answer might be so you can better relate to it. If you don't know how to figure the answer out, ask your advisor. There's that person again. That should be your go-to person. If they can't help you, they should go to me and I will help them so they can help you. You can also ask experienced fellow students, or you can ask Jane Fielden, but Jane can't really give you academic advice. She may tell you where to go find a form or when something needs to be filed, but not what course to take, for example, or how to get out of, I don't know, a big mess you got yourselves into or something. If everything else fails, you can come to me, but I should not be your go-to, right? Try to help yourselves, talk to your advisor, talk to fellow students, maybe Janie. If ever all that fails, come to see me. If you're a GTA, you need to take what used to be called a speak test, and now it's OPIC or something. You should have gotten emails about this. This is if your native language is not English. There's a scoring of advanced high that is required, and you have to keep taking it until you reach that. This was done already. They closed that one on August 10. So if you didn't do it then, I don't know how you can do it now. They may be able to open it. I'm not sure, but you cannot work as a TA if you haven't done this. What is your job? Well, you're going to be working with an instructor to maybe run a lab, maybe grade homework, maybe grade an exam, maybe man office hours, right? So work with your instructor. It could be a lecturer, it could be a faculty member from the department, but work with that person and do what they tell you to do. Depending on whether you are 10 or 20-hour TA, 10 hour is what we call quarter time, 20 is half time. You must sign up for anywhere between 6 and 11 hours more if you're 10-hour, fewer if you're 20. 6 is okay for a 20-hour. We evaluate TAs on a continuing basis, so take it seriously, do a good job, and everything is fine. If you don't show up, if people start complaining, we might rethink whether you will be kept on payroll. If you're a GRA, you have an advisor. That's typically your academic advisor too, although you could be in a group where the academic advisor has farmed out the responsibility of who you would work with to maybe a postdoc or someone else in it. But you work with them on what to do. Typically, you will be asked to contribute something to a research project, whether it's results, whether it's code, whether it's building electronic stuff, publish papers. It's entirely up to them. Same thing like before with the GTAs. You have to work a certain number of hours and you're evaluated, but it's up to the faculty member who owns who holds the grant of the contract to decide whether you're making the contribution that was expected. If you have a 10-hour GTA and a 10-hour GRA position, then you got to do a bit of both here. All right. And it's pretty obvious. Someone tells you to do something, you do it, everything's good. So it'll be fine.
Hey, Dr.
Yes.
Someone asked in the chat, it says 6 to 11 hours. So can you not take 12 if you have one of those positions?
Yeah. I don't know why they put it down there. It's a good question. I never dove into it. It's from the graduate school. There are limits on how many hours you can take, but it's higher. It's either 12 or 15. That's the upper limit. So, and 11 is a really strange number. So yeah, excellent question. 12 hours as a graduate student is a lot more than 12 hours as an undergraduate student. If you have a job to do on top of that and a life, you're going to be busy. So be careful about doing that. You don't want to stretch yourselves too thin. 9 hours is a pretty good load for someone who has a 10-hour appointment. 12 is doable if you're willing to put in the effort. Yes. Did that help?
Yeah, so I have 20 hours. Am I allowed to take 12?
Probably not. You can do it because you can sign up. So are you a TA or an RA?
TA and RA.
You're both in there. Okay, work with your RA advisor, whoever that is, work with them and say if this is okay. If they say, yeah, sure, go ahead, then fine, no one's going to stop you. But just be forewarned that that is a heavy load. I'm not saying it can't be done, but that's a very heavy load. And both your TA instructor and your RA mentor, if you will expect, work from you. So, but work with the person who hired you as an RA.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. What am I saying here? Basically what you would expect, right? It's a job, take it seriously. It's not an entitlement. It's a benefit here. We're giving you a nice experience, a nice job, pay for fees and everything else. So when someone asks you to do something, do it, be on time, be prepared, work your hours, and be respectful. I mean, everything you would expect on any kind of job. The graduate school has a best practices in teaching programs. If you're interested in teaching, you can do that. We don't require that you do it, but you can certainly do that if that's something you're interested in. And I forget when they do it, but you can sign up for it using the link that you can see there. All right, so department has 66 or 68 GTA positions. Inevitably, we will have openings last minute because of visa issues with international students. And so if you're looking for an assistantship, it is possible that we still looking to hire GTAs. It will be on the computer science side of the house. So someone who can contribute to the computer science undergraduate program, where we have 660 or something students. So the classes are really full. Contact Dr. Blaylock. You see the email there today, if you're interested in this. And again, this does not mean that he necessarily has a job, or an opening, but if one comes up later today or tomorrow, he will grab the first one on that list and try to fill it. So keep that in mind. You might also still be able to get an RA position if you talk with the faculty. So I know of one with OIT that's in regard to high performance and scientific computing. They want a domestic student, US only for that. It pays something like, it's a 20-hour job. It pays $2,000 per month and all the fees and tuition and everything. So it's really nice. And it's a good environment and everything, but that's still open. If you're interested in that, you should contact me. I work with people at the hospital and they're looking for a PhD student in medical imaging, and you'll be working with me, but also spending time over there and out at Siemens. If that's something you're interested in, you should reach out to me and we can go from there. And I'm sure other faculty have openings as well. So don't be shy, but also be prepared to be told, sorry, no, the position has been filled, but don't, again, take that personal. Don't make that not you ask somebody again later. These openings come all the time. TA positions at the beginning of the semester or before it, RA positions, year round, basically. Okay. So we do have some student organizations. This is not a comprehensive list, but it has sort of the bigger ones in here. If you're interested in joining a group, if you want a little pod of people, like-minded people to work with, you should certainly reach out to them and become involved. And they will more likely than not be posting stuff here as the semester starts, trying to recruit you to sort of an open house event that they have. So take advantage of that and get involved. There are departmental events. I cannot remember if we have a welcome events. Usually we did before COVID. Then it kind of went away, and I don't remember now if there's going to be one here this semester. But if there is, there'll be, you know, posters in the department and emails and stuff going out. So take your time here, you know, as an opportunity to make friends, network with people, have fun, make contacts, and work on your degrees and all that. This is about all I have to say. Any questions? I'll be happy to take them now. So someone raised a hand here. Sakib, you want to speak up?
Yes, sir. So do I have to take 18 credit hours annually, even if I'm working as a GTA plus DRA for 10 hours each?
That makes you a 20-hour, then 6 hours per semester. So the
So
hours
that
6 to 11, that's
includes-
per semester. So if you have 10 plus 10, that makes you a 20-hour or a half-time TA. TA, and so now you TARA, I'm sorry. So now you only need to do 6 hours per semester.
So I have, in that case, like I have to also take courses during the summer to meet the
No.
requirement for 18 credit
No.
hours.
Let's see if I can turn this laser pointer up. Oh, so there we go. I can see really. Okay, I can only see your hand. So are you a master's, a PhD student?
I'm a PhD student, sir.
PhD student, then you will be asked to work as the RA over the summer, not as a TA. TAs get the summers off, RAs do not. Basically, if you are an RA, you're expected or you're paid to do something you quote unquote would be doing anyway, like your dissertation research or something related to it, and that you're being paid is sort of an extra bonus, but you're expected to kind of do it year round, unless you go do an internship or you work with your advisor. If you want to go do something else, you know, maybe you need to go home or, you know,
Understood, sir. But sir, what I wanted to know, like for meeting the 18 credit hours a year requirement, do I have to take 6 credit hours in the summer if I end up taking 6 credit hours for the other semester?
For the residents?
No, sir. I'm international student, sir.
Yeah, but what is the 18-hour? Do you have to do that for your visa?
No, sir. Like what I wanted to understand that you said something about 18 credit hours a year, that 9 credit hours within 2 semesters, or 6
Yeah,
plus
okay,
6 plus 6.
Right, okay, right. That's the thing called residency. That's for 1 year. That's
Mhm.
1 year only. So there's 1 year while you're a PhD student. It could be any of the 4 or 5 years that you're at UT. You have to have either 2 semesters back to back with 9 hours each, or 3 semesters with 6 hours each. Just 1 year, one time.
Understood, sir.
And if it's 3 semesters, it will involve a summer, and they don't like 693. They want 666 or more. I don't know why. I think it's a silly rule, but I've tried changing it, and they wouldn't budge.
Understood. Thank you, sir.
So many PhD students do it with 600. Their research, their dissertation research, and then just do 600 typically, you know, in a semester when you start going full time on that, and you do it every semester because you have to do it anyway. Any other questions? Going once, twice. Okay. Well, thank you for dialing in. And there's a PDF, like I said, up on the EECS website under the graduate program tab, and it should be pretty easy to find it in there. It has all this stuff in here. If anything, the take home from today is that you got to find yourselves an advisor, academic advisor, and that's your go-to person for what courses should I take, how many hours do I need of this, can I work this many if I do something, can I get exempt from, you know, whatnot. So find yourselves an advisor, and in the meantime, for those of you who do not have one, I'm happy to field any questions you have. You can just send me an email and I'll write you back. If I'm in my office and my door is open, you can stop by, but I kind of run around too and do a lot of other stuff. So it might be easier or better if you kind of set up an appointment through email first. And then if that's what you do, typically I can just answer the email and get it all taken care of there. So if we don't have any more questions, I wish you a good day and a great fall semester, and I'll see you back in Minkou. Bye.
Thank you, Dr. Gregor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.